Hello. Research is a highly specialized and technical field that require a good understanding of the philosophy and the principle that guides in its operation. Today, I want to share with you how to write a research title. Many a times, people don't understand, maybe young students or upcoming researchers don't understand that there are philosophy that should guide the writing of a research title. Again, my name is Dr. Felix Ayodele, and this is research and statistics. So let's get into it. Now, to start with, it's important you understand that for every research journey or research quest, there is the concept of a working title. When you start that particular research, whatever comes to your mind in form of raw ideas can actually be penned down in form of a working right title. Now, this is what you, over time, you'll be looking at in the context of your study, editing and managing, until you come to what we call the final title. And many a times, final title is never written until the research is even concluded and the abstract written. Now, I'm going to just take you step by step on how to write a research title. It's important to understand that a research title is part of that particular paper that is read most. When you see a particular study, maybe in publication, a journal article, what comes to your mind first, what strikes you first is the research title. It is the first read, okay? And of course, it summarizes the main idea or the ideas of a particular study. Now, for a research to be considered as a good research, having a good research title, it must contain the fewer possible words needed to adequately describe that particular research, or maybe its content, or even its purpose. Now, these are the aims of writing research title. Number one is to capture the reader's attention. When you write research title, it must be captivating. It must be coined in such a way that it can hold the reader able to it. Number two is also to highlight the research problem under investigation. So these are the two aims of research writing. Now we talk about the types of research writing. Again, I've talked about the working title. That is the raw sketch you have, the raw idea you have. Of course, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just put it in any possible way. Or over time, you are going to be looking at it again and again and changing it. There are times some people just stick to the working title. No, the working title is the rough idea. You mustn't have to stick with it. Okay? Then we have what we call the final title. Now, there are three possible types or structure of research title. Number one is the declarative title. Number two is the descriptive title, and number three is the interrogative or the investigative title. Now let's look at them one after the other again. The working title is the initial cast of your research title, which is subject to change as you progress in that particular study. And usually is a draft. It's the raw idea that you are coming on board with. Never be inclined to sticking with it. Maybe people are trying to correct you, put you through some people want to stick to it. This is what I've come up with, and this. No, no, no. That is not the concept. That's not the idea of a working title. Now, again, it's important to understand that it doesn't have to be perfect. It's your raw idea, and you can work with it over time. Now, the creating a working title, it will help you to anchor still on the focus of the study. Just give a very broad overview of what you actually want to cover. Now, it will help you to anchor to that particular focus on the title. Again, it's important to have such a concept to reorient you back to the main idea or the purpose of your study. Now, again, the final title this time around is the polished construct, the polished focus, the polished method, and the results that you intend to come up with in that particular study. And it is considered as a refined description of your study. Again, I mentioned it often comes very close to the end of that particular research. So your final title is written in such a way that it must bring out the essential term even in your paper. The essential term in your paper. And don't also forget that it's to be written when you have even completely written the paper or the abstract. That is when you are going to know the most suitable title even for that particular research. Now, these are the good the characteristics of a good research title. Number one, it should reveal the content of that research paper. Number two, it should be interesting to the reader. Nobody wants to go through a boring article topic. Number three, it should reflect the tone of the writing. In academic writing, we write in prose. Okay, there are different styles of writing and philosophy of writing in different fields of study. Okay, but when it comes to academic writing, you write in prose, and it should also contain important keywords. Important keywords are registered, specific highlight, technical terms that can actually properly situate that particular study or make that topic, that study, a quite a unique one. Now, I decided to produce this table to actually guide on how to arrive at a good research topic. And when you see this table, you see the first topic here is benefits. Benefits of leading to Nigerian youth a quantitative investigation. Number two is why mindful students make the best grade. And number three is social media impact. Number four is youth on the move, a quantitative report on the impact of reading on students. Now, I decided to put this here so that I can use it as a guide to know if a research topic predicts content, okay, if it is interesting, or it actually reflects the needed tone, or contains the important keywords. So the next line tells us the assessment of these individual topics. The first one, of course, we can say it predicts content. The second one is not interesting. The third one, we can say it doesn't reflect the tone. That's for the first title. Now, why the second title? It has a no for predicting content, and yes and no interest for reflection of tone and important keyword. While for the social media impact, that sounds more like the title, maybe of a paper, or maybe of a textbook or a notebook. So this is important when you write research title. You must make sure that it predicts content, is interesting, and it also reflects on and there are important keywords in it. Now, again, tips for writing effective paper title. The first thing is that you make sure that it talks about the topic. The topic is very, very important here. And again, the methods that you're going to use. Okay. One number three, the sample, the target population will be clearly described. And again, we talk about the results you want to find out. Okay. And of course, you have an example like you have it in this format, the methods, the topic, and the sample. Let's have an example. You see, the impact of meditation on student performance, a quantitative study of mindfulness among the University of Nigerian students. So you can appreciate this particular topic is all encompassing. It talks about the topic, it talks about the method you intend to use, quantitative method, and then it talks about the sample you want to take. Okay, mindfulness among, so that's a qualitative sort of information. And of course, you have the focus, the population that you are targeting. Okay, so again, I said we have three possible structure of research title. The first is declarative, which many a time talks about the findings even before it's it begins, the research begins. So you have a 3 month way loss program increase self-esteem in adolescent girl. That's like giving a declaration even before the study itself. While the second is the descriptive title. In this case, it just comes up with a description of the topic without really talking about the conclusion. While the third possible structure is interrogative title. That's the time that introduces the subject in form of a question. An example is, does cognitive training improve performance on pattern recognition tasks? So you can have a research title, you can have research title taking different form, but whichever form your research title is to take, it must contain the essential elements. Now, these are the tips for writing effective research paper. Number one, avoid unnecessary words and jargon. Okay, the big grammars are not actually necessary, except if they are registered words in that particular field or technical words that if you remove them, it could reduce the focus of that particular research. Number two is to keep the title statement as concise as possible. Number three, you want a title that will be comprehensive to even people that are outside your area of expertise. Okay, so it must be something comprehensive. Okay, comprehensive. You make sure your title is also between 5 and 15 words. There are specifications depending on the purpose of your research work. For people writing for a degree, you must familiarize yourself with the limits of words expected, maybe by your institution. Okay, and again, we talked about the too little title. We have an example here. This is usually the case where you have too many unnecessary words, or sorry, too long title. This is where you have too many unnecessary words in your construct. About language serves as a study to investigate or an example. We know you're already conducting a study, so bringing those things up is more of a superfluous statement. Okay, they are quite unnecessary and they don't necessarily convey scope or intent of the study. Now, another possibility is to have two short titles. That is a situation whereby you have like social media impacts. Social media impact does not even convey any meaningful heading as a research topic. It may be suitable, maybe for newspaper headline or whatsoever, but as far as research title is concerned, the philosophy is that it must be able to convey essential message even to the reader. So we have an example here, a paper with the title African Politics. This may be the title of a book. It may be suitable for the title of a book, but for a research paper, this will not be suitable. Okay, so again, we look at some tips. We use descriptive phrase to convey the purpose of your research. Essentially, your research title is going to be a phrase, not necessarily a sentence. It's not even going to be a clause many times. It's going to be more of a phrase, but it must convey the purpose of your research. And more importantly, we use critical words, keywords that will increase your article discoverability. When people are interested in research along a particular area of profession, they will be able to discover your own title. Now, these are some of other information. If you're writing a title for university assignment, you must ensure you familiarize yourself with the specification. You must conform with the standard of that institution, be it you are writing maybe for an assignment, thesis, dissertation, or maybe for a particular journal. Journals have required number of character, number of words, the kind of font they want you to use, even for your research title. So let's look at this exercise as we wrap up. You see, this is an example of a working title. We employ a case study of 60 liver transplant patients around the US aged 20 to 50 years to assess how waiting lists vary affect the volume of liver transplants in patients. Results indicate a positive correlation between increased waiting list volume and negative prognosis after the transplant procedure. This is a very good example of a working title. It does not have to be perfect. You just have to make it work. Now, from this, you can begin to tune it down. You can begin to prune it to have the final title. So let's look at how the first step in pruning this. Now, you see, we are crossing what we employ. Now we now have a case study, okay? We're removing liver, we're removing patient, we're removing results indication, we're removing after transplant procedure. Let's do a further review of this particular topic, okay? Now we have this. It's looking a little bit more concise and straight to the point. A case study of 60 liver transplants patients around the US aged 20 to 50 years, assessing the impact of waiting list volume of outcome of transplantation and showing a positive correlation between increased waiting list volume and a negative prognosis. But this still has 28 years. So it simply means we are going to still prune it further. Okay, so let's have a further pruning. Now we are removing around US age 20 to 50. We are removing and showing positive correlation between increased waiting list volume and negative. So let's see what we have. This time around, we have like 15 words left. So this looks like a very beautiful way to summarize even the title. So this can be considered a final title at the end of this particular project. Yes, I hope you enjoy the short and insightful presentation on how to write research title. Again, it is research and statistics. I implore you to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more insightful information like this that will help you in your research journey. Bye for now.